For the first time in their professional careers, Alex Eala and Naomi Osaka stepped onto the same court with a spot in the Mubadala City DC Open 2026 final on the line, and from the opening few games, it was obvious this was going to be a fascinating clash of completely different styles. On one side stood Naomi Osaka, a former world number 1 and 4-time Grand Slam champion, one of the most explosive ball strikers of her generation. When Osaka is locked in, the formula is usually pretty simple: crush the first serve, take control with the next shot, and end the rally before her opponent has a chance to settle in. But across the net was Alex Eala, and the young Filipina came into this semi-final with a very different idea. She wasn't going to try to beat Osaka at her own game. Instead, Eala appeared to have one clear mission from the start: do not let Osaka control the point within the first 2 shots. That game plan became obvious almost immediately. Early in the opening set, both players looked comfortable on serve. Osaka leaned heavily on the weapon that has carried her through some of the biggest matches of her career, her powerful first delivery. When that serve landed in the right spot, she was able to pick up quick points and avoid long exchanges. But Eala refused to get rattled. Rather than trying to match Osaka shot for shot in pure power, Alex relied on speed, anticipation, disciplined returning, and her ability to make Osaka play one extra ball. And then another. And sometimes another. That may sound simple, but against a player with Osaka's firepower, it can completely change the rhythm of a match. One of the biggest differences was Eala's placement. She wasn't just stepping up and swinging as hard as she could. Alex was moving the ball intelligently into the corners, forcing Osaka to cover the full width of the baseline. Left side. Right side. Back again. Suddenly, Osaka wasn't always hitting from a perfectly balanced position. She was being asked to strike while moving, and that is where a few unforced errors began creeping into her game. Eala's left-handed forehand also presented another problem. The different angles created by a lefty made it harder for Osaka to settle into the comfortable hitting patterns she usually loves from the baseline. And the longer these rallies went, the more Alex seemed to trust her own consistency. That was a huge part of the story. When the exchanges became extended, Eala remained patient. Osaka, meanwhile, occasionally looked like she wanted to finish the point one shot too early. Alex understood exactly what she needed to do. She didn't need spectacular winners on every point. She needed to keep Osaka uncomfortable. As the first set moved toward its most important stage, Eala started becoming noticeably more aggressive on return. Earlier, she had been willing to absorb Osaka's pace and work her way into rallies. Now, whenever Osaka left a ball short, Alex stepped inside the court and attacked. The mindset had changed. She wasn't simply surviving Osaka's offense anymore. She was beginning to turn Osaka into the defender. Then came the biggest moment of the opening set. The score was tied at 4-4, and suddenly every point felt bigger. This was exactly the kind of situation where Osaka's experience could have become decisive. She had been through Grand Slam finals. She had played under enormous pressure on the biggest courts in tennis. But Eala didn't blink. In one of the most important return games of the set, Alex found the breakthrough and broke Osaka's serve, moving ahead 5-4. Now she had to finish it. And that can sometimes be the hardest part for a young player facing a former world number 1. Breaking serve is one thing. Standing at the baseline knowing you're serving for the set against a 4-time major champion is something else entirely. But Alex stayed composed. She trusted her serve, kept playing the patterns that had gotten her there, and refused to allow the moment to become bigger than the tennis itself. Osaka was forced to keep hitting difficult balls, and eventually the pressure produced another mistake. Eala held serve. First set, 6-4. And suddenly, the match had completely changed. Because when the second set began, Alex wasn't playing like somebody hoping to pull off an upset. She was playing like somebody who believed the match belonged to her. You could see it in the way she handled Osaka's serve. Eala began taking the ball earlier on her returns, refusing to give Osaka enough time to dictate with those heavy ground strokes. Anytime Osaka missed the perfect location with her serve, especially when Alex got a look at a second serve, Eala jumped on it. The return would come back quickly and aggressively, and Osaka often found herself under pressure before the rally had even truly developed. But perhaps the most impressive part of Eala's second set wasn't the offense. It was the defense. Several times, Osaka appeared to hit a ball that looked like a clean winner. Against a lot of players, the point would have been over. Not against Alex. Eala's movement allowed her to chase down shots that seemed out of reach, extend rallies that looked finished, and force Osaka to hit one more ball. That extra shot mattered. Because once Osaka had to keep producing winner after winner, the margin for error became smaller. Eventually, some of those aggressive attempts started missing. And with each error, Eala seemed to become even more confident. Another impressive part of Alex's performance was her court awareness. She didn't suddenly start attempting low-percentage highlight reel shots just because she had won the first set. She stayed disciplined. If the attacking opportunity wasn't there, she waited. If Osaka hit deep, Alex defended. If a shorter ball arrived, then she stepped forward. That patience made the matchup even more frustrating for Osaka because there were very few easy points being handed across the net. From the baseline, Eala also seemed to understand exactly how she wanted to construct rallies. Rather than aiming for the winner immediately, she would use deep cross-court shots to stretch Osaka and create an opening. Once the court opened up, Alex could redirect the next ball into the opposite side. It wasn't overly complicated. But it was incredibly effective. Again and again, Eala used that basic pattern to control the direction of the rally. And as her lead began to grow, you could sense the pressure shifting heavily onto Osaka. The quality of Osaka's first serve also appeared to drop compared with the opening set. That was a major problem because whenever the Japanese star had to rely on a second serve, Eala was ready. Alex attacked early, took control of the rally from the opening strike, and forced Osaka to start points from uncomfortable positions. Then Eala earned the first break of the second set. And this is where her maturity really stood out. Sometimes a young player gets a major breakthrough against a superstar and immediately starts thinking about the finish line. The shots get rushed. The feet stop moving. The nerves arrive. Alex did the opposite. She kept playing. Same aggressive return game. Same relentless defense. Same intelligent shot selection. Same patience. She never gave Osaka the opening she needed to completely change the momentum. And as the match entered its final games, the biggest thing you could see from Alex was composure. Think about the situation for a second. She was closing in on a victory over Naomi Osaka, a former world number 1 and 4-time Grand Slam champion, with a place in the final at stake. That would be enough to make almost any player feel the moment. But Eala didn't suddenly start swinging wildly. She didn't try to end the match with one spectacular shot. She stayed within herself and treated the closing points exactly the way she had treated the earlier ones. One rally at a time. One ball at a time. One decision at a time. That's what made this performance so impressive. It wasn't simply that Alex Eala beat Naomi Osaka. It was the way she managed the matchup. She neutralized Osaka's biggest weapons by extending rallies. She used placement instead of trying to win a power contest. She attacked second serves. She defended balls that looked like winners. She moved Osaka around the baseline, waited patiently for openings, and then attacked when the right opportunity appeared. And most importantly, when the biggest moments arrived, Alex never looked overwhelmed by the name standing on the other side of the net. After taking the opening set 6-4, Eala carried the momentum into the second and continued applying pressure until she finally closed it out 6-2. Game, set, match. Alex Eala had taken down Naomi Osaka and booked her place in the final. For Osaka, there were moments when her trademark power looked dangerous, especially behind the first serve. But Alex never allowed that power to completely dictate the match. Every time Osaka appeared ready to take control, Eala found a way to make the rally uncomfortable again. And by the end, what started as a first-time meeting between a rising Filipina star and one of the most accomplished champions of the modern era had turned into a statement performance from Alex Eala. She didn't need to overpower Naomi Osaka. She outmaneuvered her, stayed patient under pressure, trusted the game plan, and finished the job.